This lesson is on citing your sources, specifically how and when to cite your sources internally in MLA format. So by the end of this lesson, you will be able to define the MLA citation style, define an in-text citation, create two variations of an in-text citation in MLA style, and cite internally to avoid plagiarism. Your keywords are MLA style, avoiding plagiarism, or when to cite internally, in-text citation, including inline and parenthetical. Avoiding plagiarism requires many things. One major element is that you give credit to your sources, and you need to do this both in your paper and on a reference page. A lot of times that I tell you your papers are plagiarized, it's because you've left out one or the other, and it's usually your internal sources. So today we're going to make sure that you know what an internal citation is and when you need to use one to avoid plagiarism. Starting out, we're working with MLA style, which stands for the Modern Language Association. This is a standard style for formatting papers and citations that is most commonly used in English, foreign language, and literature disciplines. Since this is English class, we're going to use MLA. We use this standard approach to citing because it helps to clearly communicate our sources. Anybody familiar with MLA style will be able to use that information to identify whom you are giving credit to. So, how do we avoid plagiarism by citing internally? We show in our paper where we have borrowed words and or ideas. That's what citing internally is all about. These are also called in-text citations. You have to cite internally to avoid both word for word and paraphrase plagiarism. You don't just cite internally when you quote, you cite internally anywhere you use information from a source. To cite internally, you simply place an in-text citation with every source use. And there are two ways that you can do this. You can do an inline citation or parenthetical citation. An inline citation is when you acknowledge the source information in your sentence that's paraphrasing or quoting from your source. You do this when you're paraphrasing a fact or statistic that's published by an author or entity, or when you're quoting the source directly. And you do this by introducing the information using the author or entity's name, and if you have one, placing the page number in parentheses at the end of the source use. So it looks like this. This is a direct quote with the page number. Smith says plagiarism is more frequent than most people realize. 7. Smith is your author. His or her name is now in your sentence. The page number is in parentheses at the end of the sentence. If you're paraphrasing, you could say something like, the Modern Language Association estimates that roughly 70% of papers contain some plagiarism. Again, we have a page number in parentheses at the end of this sentence, and at the start we see the entity's name that is authoring this information. In this example, you're paraphrasing by author, but we don't have a page number. So what you can see that's different here is the only thing we have is the author's name. According to Diana Hacker, plagiarism is easily avoidable with careful attention to citation. There's no page number at the end because we don't have a page number. So, what happens if you don't know who the author is? Your solution? You're going to use a parenthetical citation. You may only use inline citations like this if you know who is authoring your information. So, let's talk about parenthetical citations. This is when you place all the source information at the end of the sentence inside parentheses, hence parenthetical. You do this anytime you paraphrase or quote information that you're not citing with an inline citation. So if you cannot cite it by inline, you have to cite it parenthetically. You could choose to never cite inline and only cite parenthetically. That's just fine. But anytime you do not have an inline citation, you need to cite parenthetically. This offers some increased fluency and less disruption of the message than an inline citation does. So it is, in a sense, the preferred method of citation. And you do this by including the author's last name and the page number in parentheses at the end of the source use. Taking a look at what that looks like, In a standard parenthetical citation, you would simply have the author's last name and a page number, no fancy stuff, in parentheses before the period. So plagiarism is a common occurrence, parentheses, Smith, space, 7, parentheses, period. That's it. If you have an organization as an author, where you had the author's last name, you'll sub in the organization's name. One estimate believes that 70% of papers are plagiarized. Modern Language Association, space, 15. What, though, do you do if you don't have a page number? Simple. You don't include one. You would just use the author's name. What if you don't know who the author is? This time, we can cite by title. For example, avoiding plagiarism in quotation marks. Here, you need to make sure that you're formatting titles correctly. If it's a short work, the title goes in quotation marks. If it's a long work, like a book, it gets italicized. What you need to remember is that citing internally is a vital part of avoiding plagiarism. If you don't cite internally, anytime you use information, whether it's quoted or not, from your source, you are plagiarizing. And when in doubt, cite it out. So when in doubt, make sure you put a citation in your paper.